Good afternoon. So great to see everybody here. My name is Dolly King. I'm the interim dean for Bell College of Business, UNC Charlotte. So great to see everyone. On behalf of Bell College and the Childress Klein Center for Real Estate, I am pleased to welcome you to the 2023 State of Housing in Charlotte Summit. A special welcome to all the city elected officials and board members who are attending the event today, and to our sponsors whose generous support made the event possible. For those of you who have not been to Dubois Center, welcome to our Uptown campus. And this is where we use the space to serve our students in the region, to partner with our research partners in the community, and also serve our overall community. So very happy to be here to be able to do that. All 11 floors, we have a very nice building here. It's been buzzing with student energy. If you come during the afternoon or the evening hours, you will see students going to different classes, collaborating and discussing. And all our Bell College master program are offered here, including Master of Science in Real Estate, and also our Doctorate in Business Administration, as well as a program from across campus, such as the Master in Urban Design. Now it is my pleasure to invite Chris Vetter, this President and CEO of Faison Enterprises, to share some welcome remarks. Chris?
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for attending this 2023 Charlotte State of Housing Summit. Faison is proud to be today's sponsor, along with True Homes and Canopy. And we're also really proud to be a partner with UNC Charlotte, Bell College of Business, and the Childress Klein Center of Real Estate. Look, as many of you know, it's been a challenging 12 months overall for the development community across all asset classes. A banking friend of mine has called this period the re-equitization phase of commercial real estate. I will tell you, in our portfolio, Faison has experienced a bit of a slowdown in lot takedowns in single family, but velocity and demand are still strong. There's a lot of good fundamentals out there in the marketplace. In our multifamily, we're still seeing some higher concessions. We're also seeing a little bit more increases in bad debt exposure. So I think overall, fundamentals are good, but we still have a little bit of concern out there in the marketplace as it relates to the topic about housing, the topic we're on today. I'm really interested to hear more about Dr. Chu, what he has to say, and our panelists. I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're all very fortunate to live in Charlotte. It's a great community, and long-term, Faison is bullish in this region. So thank you for attending today's event, and I look forward to Dr. Chu taking us over.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks again to Faison, Canopy, and True Home for their generous support and continuous support of this event and of our college and university. We'll start today with a presentation of our 2023 State of Housing in Charlotte report very soon. The report, Dr. Chu's presentation, will follow by Q&A that we will answer questions from the audience live here, and also from people who are attending remotely via Zoom. For people who are attending from Zoom, please submit your questions or put your questions in the Zoom chat, and we will alternate question or answer question from live audience and the Zoom attendees. So we'll do that when we get to the Q&A. Following the presentation and Q&A, there will be a panel presentation, so please do stay. So the presentation by Dr. Chu and the Q&A will take about an hour. We'll end right around 3 o'clock. We'll take a 10-minute break, so do come back after 10 minutes. We'll go into the panel discussion. So for those of you who are on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can join today's conversation using hashtag CLT Housing. We look forward to seeing your tweets and sharing your tweets. So now it is my pleasure, so I will not take too much of your time, my pleasure to introduce my dear colleague and today's presenter, Dr. Yongqiang Chu. Dr. Chu is the director for Childress Klein Center for Real Estate, and Childress Klein Distinguished Professor of Real Estate and Urban Economics. He is highly regarded scholar doing groundbreaking research in real estate, finance, and banking. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Chu.
Thanks for everybody for attending. So I'm gonna jump right in, and of course, if this thing works. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank our sponsors, Phase-In, Canopy, and True Homes, and we have been in a very, very good relationship. This is our 5th year of doing this, and we hope to continue this great relationship for the next many, many years to come. So I'm gonna first give you an overview of the macroeconomy of the MSA. So to understand the demand and supply of housing. Okay, so this part, the data comes from a census. This is based on the Charlotte MSA. So I'm gonna first show you population. Okay, so this is on the demand side. So I'm plotting the population of the Charlotte MSA. So of course that's in 1,000 since 2014. Okay, so we have experienced robust population growth in those years, okay, around 2% every year. It went down quite a bit during COVID years, okay? So there's no 2020 because due to COVID, census did not release their 2020 data. Okay, so it went down quite significantly during COVID, but as we are out of COVID, population growth kind of went back to its pre-COVID levels. So to put this into perspective, for the Charlotte MSA, every day about 150 people are moving into this region. This is net, okay? So every day the number of population increased by about 150 in this region, okay? Now, if you want to know where are the sources of this population increase, there are 3 possibilities: natural, okay, birth and death, and then domestic migration and international migration. So you can see that if you look at that natural is about 16.3, and a lot of that population growth actually comes from domestic migration. As I said, we have a lot of people move into this area, and international also is a big chunk, which this was last year. So during COVID years, there was not much international migration, but it came back. So everything looks to be back to the pre-COVID kind of norms. Okay, so now the other way to look at demand side instead of just population is to look at number of households, right? So this is the number of households in this region also from 2014, and then the growth rate, okay? And one thing to note that is during COVID, although population growth actually slowed down, households growth did not slow down. Okay, I will talk about the reason why that is. And then the household growth rate continues to increase. I think this is going to be a trend, at least going forward for the next several years as well. So you may wonder why population growth slowed down, why household growth did not slow down. This is the reason. Okay, so this is the average household size. Okay, so it has been like around 2.7, 2.65 for quite a long time. But in 2021, that number dropped to almost 2.55. So this is how many people in an average household. And then it continues to go down to 2.5. Okay, so I think this will have many implications for the housing industry. What kind of houses people need, right, going forward. And also means we need to build more housing units to accommodate that. So those are mostly the demand side. People households. Now let's look at the supply side. Supply side is basically means how many housing units we are adding to the Charlotte market. So this is again for the Charlotte Metro, and we are seeing, yes, we are adding more and more, and growth rate is about around 2.5, 2.4% every year. Okay, it's robust. Okay, but now let's compare the demand side and the supply side. Okay, so here what I'm plotting in the blue bars are the increases in the number of households that represent the demand side. Okay, ideally, whenever we have one more household, we need to build one more housing unit to accommodate that. Okay, and this is starting from 2014. You can see there is quite a gap there. The red bars are the number of housing units we added to the market. So this gap meaning there is a shortage. Okay, so this one is about 6,000-7,000 units shortage in 2014, and then we had the same phenomenon 2015. Okay, so what I didn't plot is starting from the Great Recession 2008, 2009, we had the same problem in all those years. Okay, there was a significant underbuilding or shortage of housing supply during those years. Every year there were about 6,000 to 7,000 housing units shortage compared to household increase. Okay, we started to address this problem a lot better 2016, especially 2018 and 2019. We added a lot more housing units than the number of households, right? However, COVID hit. Okay, many of us should still remember that the lumber price also almost quadrupled and everything. That completely reversed that trend. So from 2019 to 2021, this is not that they're building a lot more. This is because this is 2 years of change stacked together because we do not have data on 2020. During those 2 years, it created another 10,000 unit of housing shortage. Okay, and then coming out of COVID, another 10,000 unit shortage. Okay, so if we just look at what happened after the Great Recession since 2008, 2009, we are probably looking at about 30,000 to 40,000 units shortage. Okay, and at the current pace of household increase, people moving into this area, we need to at least build 35,000 to 40,000 units every year to accommodate people moving in. If we want to address that, let's say we want to address that in the next 7 years, then we need adding another 5,000 units to these numbers. That's how many more we need to build to be able to accommodate people moving in, to be able to cover the deficit we created over the last almost 15 years. Okay? Okay, and people in the builder industry will tell you that's a huge number to get there. Okay, before we are able to get there, okay, unless something dramatically change, we are not going to be able to see price decreases. Right? So people worry about, or people asking me whether there is going to be price declining because interest rates are so high and the economy is everything. But unless we address this problem, there is a housing shortage, price will be bid up. Right? Charlotte MSA, so the Charlotte and the surrounding 13. Yeah. All right, so those will give you an overview of the macroeconomy, the demand and supply. Now let's look at specifically what's happening in the housing market. So I'm gonna In this presentation, I'm going to focus on what happened since January 2022. Okay, so in the actual report, we go back to 2005. Okay, so if you're interested in the long-term trend, read the report. But here I'm going to focus on what happened since January 2022. This ends at September 2023. Also, all these data come from Canopy's MLS data. This is based on Mecklenburg County and 7 counties bordering Mecklenburg County. Okay, so when I say Charlotte region, that means those 8 counties. So first of all, this is like the last period of COVID where we see price start to decrease in the second half of 2022. Last year, when we did this report, we were here and people already starting to ask, are prices decreasing? I told them it was likely to be seasonal. Okay, and I was right. There was price decreases, but it went back up. Okay, in the first half of 2023. Now we are again in this phase of seasonal adjustment. Okay, so housing markets usually are a lot hotter in those months and then started to be flat towards the end of the year. Okay, again, this is likely to be seasonal. There's no sign of price decreasing in this region. So just want to kind of compare. Of course, this is already kind of the house price growth was much lower than during COVID periods, right? So from September 2021 to September 2022, the house price growth rate was 14.2% during COVID periods. A year before that, it was 16%. Now, if you look at September 2022, September 2023, growth rate is 5.3, much lower than the COVID period. But again, it's not zero, it's not negative. It's still growing at a 5% rate. Okay, so the growth rate is kind of going back to the pre-COVID levels. Okay, but one thing to keep in mind is before COVID, the mortgage interest rate was 3-point-something%. Now it's 7.5. Okay, so mortgage interest rate more than doubled, but we still have price increases. That suggests how strong the demand has been. That also suggests how limited the supply has been. Okay, so this will tell you a lot about the supply side. So this is the number of days a listing remain on the market. That is between when you list the house until the house is under contract. Okay, so and during COVID, this is the median. During COVID, the lowest hit 4 days. Right, so if you list the house 4 days, it's gone. Okay, this is something this region has never experienced before. Okay, and then of course in the second half of 2022 it went back up to about 30 days. Okay, so if you just look at this period, you will see, okay, this is dramatic increase to 30 days. But if you read the report, look at long term, 30 days on the market is very short. Very short. Okay, so the market still remains remarkably tight. And then it went down in 2023. Okay, going up a little bit, again, seasonal adjustment. So we are still looking at, till this day, the median number of days on the market is 10. Okay, of course, for sellers, these are fantastic. For buyers, if you are a buyer, you do not want to be in this market. First of all, most likely you're not going to buy that house. Second of all, if you're lucky enough to actually were able to get that house, it's very likely that's not your dream house you were looking for, because you just do not have enough time to go through the whole process. Okay, so this is still a very, very tight market with very, very limited housing supply. Okay, so why supply is limited? There are many, many reasons, right? And in this era, there are two things that are also important explaining the limited supply. Right? So remember, a lot of people had 3-point-something mortgage interest rate. I have one. My mortgage interest rate was actually below 3. And I'm not going to sell my house. Right? So number one, so existing homeowners are reluctant to sell their house in this market. Number two, home builders, they need to finance to be able to build. Interest rate, interest rate, interest rate. It's very difficult. Chris already talked about the interest rate environment, that the impact of that. So the supply will remain very, very limited. Of course, on top of that, we have all those things that affecting supply, right? Regulation, NIMBYism. Okay, I can talk about NIMBYism for the whole day, but I'm not going to do that. So the other thing to look at the market is looking at like property houses sold above listing prices, right? And in normal times, we probably will only see about, let's say, 20% or even lower houses sold above listing price. During COVID area, 60% of the houses are sold above listing price. Okay, why? Because people really want to buy a house during that period. And then it went back down. So this was probably similar to pre-COVID level, but it went up. Nowadays, it's about 30%. Okay, 30% of houses sold above listing price. Still showing limited supply, strong demand, bidding up the price. So now let me talk about house price distribution. So because that was the overall picture. Now look at really the high prices and low prices, how that look like. So here I'm just plotting the distribution. It's probably not that easy to understand this. Now let me try to help you understand this. All right, so distribution, let's focus on the lower end. Okay, so if you ask people, what would be the price for a typical like entry-level house for somebody who just graduated college, worked 1 or 2 years trying to buy a house? They will say, okay, $100,000, $150,000. All right, so if you are saying $100,000, okay, there's less than 1% of the houses in this market are sold under that price level. $150,000, 2.5%. Okay, if you only look at like 2 years ago, it was 4.8%. Not good number, but much higher. Okay, so it's unrealistic if you trying to say, okay, I want to buy a $150,000. There are only 2.5% of those houses. Okay, most likely those houses are not in places where you want to buy. Right? Now, even if you look at a much higher price level, $300,000 price, only 22% of houses are sold under that price level, 300,000. So, and there is kind of some change in terms of the dynamics of this house price distribution. So here I'm breaking down into the growth rate from 2002 to Oh, this is 2010. Sorry for that. This was kind of pre-crisis period, pre-Great Recession period. And you will see that at the lower end, price actually decreased. This is because of the Great Recession, a lot of that. And at the high end, you have very high growth rate during those years. So that means at the high end, prices are increasing much faster than at the lower end. But the next 10 years, things kind of dramatically changed. The prices at the lower end increased the fastest. Okay, so if we are talking about affordability, that's these part of the world. But that increased at the fastest pace. Okay, things changed a little bit. Okay, from 2021 to 2023, we actually seeing that the lowest does not have the highest growth rate, but still pretty high, and the high end actually has a higher growth rate. This is likely to be driven by the demand for larger space in the post-COVID era. Okay, I actually hope that this trend will continue because that will significantly slow down the lower end of the market. That can significantly increasing the affordability of the market. Okay, so the other way to look at this affordability issue is to look at how much money you need to make to be able to afford certain house. Okay, so again, 10th percentile, so this is the lowest 10% houses, that price point. So in 2018, you only need to make $45,000 to be able to afford a 10th percentile. 2023, you need to make $93,000. Okay, more than double. Okay, two reasons for that. Price increase a lot, interest rate more than double. So here, when I say afford, meaning you're not spending more than 30% of your gross income on housing related expense. Okay. If you want to live in a average house, medium priced house in Charlotte area, you need to make $152,000 annually. That's the household income, right? So that's how things have changed in this 5-year window. Okay, house price dramatically increased. Interest rate also dramatically increased. Okay, so big takeaway, these are the two numbers you can talk about. 55% of households in this region cannot afford a 10th percentile house. 75% of households cannot afford the medium priced house in this region. Okay, so if that's not a problem of affordability, I don't know what is. Okay, so affordability is going to be a problem going forward for Charlotte. Right? And you may wonder what's happening in the rental market. So this is the apartment rent over the last 23 years. Okay, so you can see like things changed pretty dramatically also before crisis and after crisis. Before crisis, there's not much increase. These are real rents. There's almost no increase in real rents in Charlotte area. But look at the last 12, 13 years. Okay. So apartment per unit we are looking at about $1,600 per month. Okay, so you're not gonna get away with this. Even if you're going into the rental market, you are paying significantly higher rents. We also have data on single family rental, but the pattern is very similar. Okay. So everything is becoming a lot more expensive. So now the last part of the report, I want to place Charlotte into the context comparing Charlotte with other cities. Are we special in any way? Yes, we are. We are very special, but if you look at the data, so I'm going to compare Charlotte with 7, we call it regional competitors: Asheville, Charleston, Columbia, Greensboro, Raleigh, Richmond, and Spartanburg. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show you is, again, demand side, population growth. Charlotte obviously has pretty high population growth. I don't know what happened to Spartanburg. This is the first time it shows up like that. Previous years, it was 1 point something. But anyway, Charlotte is growing very robustly among these regional competitors. We can also place Charlotte into a set of national competitor cities, Atlanta being one of them. And in this set, Charlotte actually also has actually much higher growth rate than the rest of most of these. And you can see the highest growth rate happens almost entirely in the south part of the country. Okay. So median house price. So again, these are based on MSA. So the data source, we have to be consistent. So these all these prices come from the census. So the prices will be slightly different than what the Canopy data will tell us, right? So among the regional cities, Charlotte obviously does not have the highest price, but Charlotte has one of the highest growth rate. This is from 2021 to 2022. Okay, and 20-something% increase in house price. Right. So this is compared to the national competitors. Of course, the absolute price, we are not that high, right? Again, but if you look at the growth rate, Charlotte still has one of the highest growth rate among these set of cities. Okay, so this is affordability. A lot of times we use what's known as the median multiple or price to income ratio. So this is the area's median house price divided by this area's median household income. Okay, we use that to judge how affordable houses are. Okay, usually we consider if that number is below 3, it's very affordable. Okay, but if it's between 3 and 4, it becomes not that affordable, but still okay. But if it's above 4, then that's a problem. Okay, so this is for 2022. For 2021, when I did the presentation here last year, I said for the first time in history, the median multiple in Charlotte hits 4. It was 4.05. Right, so it's getting into that region. Okay, obviously it did not stop there. This year it's 4.53. Okay, I do not see any force will slow that growth down. Okay, so unless we see a decrease in price or huge increase in household income, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So then this is for the national, right? For national, obviously there are some crazy cities that have like the median multiple or price to income ratio greater than 5. But do we really want to become one of those cities? That's a question. Right? Not on that front. So the message here is Charlotte is quickly become unaffordable, right? So now people see me will ask me, what's the solution? So again, I'm telling you, for me, the solution is very easy and very difficult. Why it's easy? Because if we do one thing, we can solve this problem. What is that one thing? Yeah, building more houses. But that comes the difficult part. How can we build more houses? I will leave that to you. Because I'm not in that business of building houses. I will leave that to all of you to solve that problem. Okay? That's all my presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Yongqiang, for that great presentation. So we're going to go into our Q&A portion of the presentation. We're going to take questions from audience right here, as well as people join us on Zoom. And so we're going to alternate. We're going to start with a question here, and then we're going to have a question from Zoom, which I'll read out and have Yongqiang answer. He has answer for everything, I'm sure, right, Yongqiang? All right.
Yes.
Yes, you say yes. All right, so we're going to start with a question. We do have a microphone, so you want to raise your hand if you have a question. We'll get the mic to you right there. Please go ahead.
Hi. Is this working? Yes. You do a real clear analysis between the cost of construction and the demand. What happens with from the banking industry when they try to finance these houses that we build at the rates that we currently have in place? They have certain criteria that is given to them by the feds, particularly for income ratios, and those just can't be met with some of the conditions that we're dealing with now. Where does that begin to tilt so that we can get a house built at a reasonably affordable price and then get it financed so the buyer can afford to make the payment? No, that's an easy question. You solve
that. So that's part of the difficult question I was talking about, right? How to build those houses. I almost want to ask Mark to answer that question. If you are talking about how to finance the builders, right? So there's a second, I think maybe also related to the mortgage industry, right? How banks are willing or not willing to finance those mortgages. I'm telling you, it's very hard. I mean, since the Great Recession, the regulatory framework for all these banks changed a lot. The lending standards are very, very tight in this regard. I'm not seeing any of these banks will relax those anytime soon because they are facing these regulatory scrutiny every day. So I cannot solve that problem, sorry.
We can take another question from the audience.
My question is on the international people migrating to the area. You mentioned that before COVID, or around COVID, it was about 8% and change, and now almost double. Where do you have data? What countries are coming from?
I actually don't. So this is the census data provided to us. They only tell us like whether they're coming from domestic or international. We do not have a breakdown. Yeah.
All right, we do have a question from the Zoom chat. I'm going to read out the question. Have the regional government planning commissions consulted with you or others who have done research to develop plans to address the housing needs?
Yes, I talk to them quite often about these things, right? But it's very difficult to change many of the regulatory framework. And the other thing is not only regulation, there is also this NIMBYism, right? Nobody
I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people do not want development outside their neighborhoods, okay, which happened in my neighborhood, right? So the council member who's representing our neighborhood was just told me that they had like 16,000 protest people like signing the protest, not allowing a multifamily development, right? So one of the things that I always trying to tell people is, yes, you enjoy those big, gorgeous houses. Think about where the teachers of your children live, where the policemen live, where the firefighter live. Think about those. If you think more about that, we probably will be able to kind of mitigate some of the NIMBY problems.
All right, we'll take another question from the audience.
Yes. Two quick questions. One, do you have the statistical data on how many people on average a day are moving to Charlotte versus moving out? And secondly, with a lot of the lower price homes, we're seeing that majority are townhomes and condos. It's not necessarily the price of the home, but it's that crazy HOA that keeps going higher and higher. I'm talking hallelujah higher here. How can I say this without getting in trouble with the real estate commission? How do we softly impact the HOA so they stop raising their prices dramatically higher and knocking these buyers out?
So first question, I do not remember the exact number, but the number I was talking about, 150, that's the net. That's the net. About HOA, I think all the house owners can vote, and you should participate in those votes, right? So of course, a lot of times it probably doesn't change a lot of things. So our neighborhood just voted not allowing rental, straightforward. I voted no, but it passed, so.
All right, we're gonna alternate to a question from Zoom. Is there any historical example of a region where prolonged affordability will we expect a long period of unaffordable housing to reverse migration trends to the area?
So first of all, I do not see that trend reverse anytime soon in terms of affordability. Second of all, I do not want to see the growth to get reversed in terms of the region. I still want to see Charlotte growing. I hope people are with me. Charlotte has been great. It's going to be greater. But how do we make that? We want people to move to this area to do business, to live here, make Charlotte a much better city. But at the same time, that will put a lot of pressure on housing demand. Again, we do not want to solve the problem from the demand side. We need to solve the problem from the supply side. You don't want to say, okay, house prices too high, so you guys do not move here. That should not be the solution.
All right, I'm gonna go to a question from the audience.
I have a quick question. A quick question on two sources of data, or maybe three, if you don't mind. One is, what's your opinion on the accuracy of census data?
Okay, so most of the time it's okay, but the population data is obviously not very accurate because every time you see a decennial census, the data gets updated, revised a lot. So not that accurate, but for a lot of housing units, household stuff, it's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Second question, relative to the incomes across the MSA, when you're looking at the affordability index, we have significant skews in income from Gaston County, So like, and can you comment on affordability in different parts of the MSA relative to the number that you gave, which I think was were we at 3.5 or 3.59?
Yeah, I don't have data here, but one of the things the prices in in the data we have the Mecklenburg County and then surrounding 7 counties, the prices are much lower. So but my guess is income is also much lower. So there's not much difference in terms of affordability. We have all that data available, but we can provide to you if you want.
Thank you. I thought there was a statistical analysis you done.
Yeah.
The last question, relative to in-migration, I'm struggling with the numbers and where we're getting those to. Are there any organic sources of data that you track or would like to track for that information?
So
For the
I
phantom
I
market.
can share that with you. So there is one specific page where on census where you can find this data.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I want to take question from the Zoom. That's alternate to that. What are the possible solutions to the significant rise in rents?
So in the rental market part, actually things are kind of cooling down faster than the single family world. And there has been significant kind of increase in supply in the rental side. So, I mean, it's probably not going to decrease anytime soon, but the growth rate will be very, very minimal. That's my guess.
All right, take question from the audience.
Hey there. So read recently in the news about shifts in policy nationally that have made it easier to transition spaces to housing to increase supply. I was wondering if there's some unique policy implementations you've seen recently that have made building or transitioning easier in the past couple of years.
Policy-wise, I don't see anything, but what I saw was there are significant efforts trying to move forward with this, but there are always concerns. So I've talked to people, so especially, let's say, converting office space into residential. A lot of people told me it's very, very, very costly, if not impossible, for most of the office properties. It's very difficult. Some other like property types may be possible. It's difficult, but also there's going to be policy accommodations for that because there is going to be zoning, building codes, everything involved in that. We are seeing some of those efforts, but I don't think that will like significantly contribute to housing supply in the short run, though.
All right, we're going to go to a question from Zoom. And I'm curious why more mortgages are not assumable. If they were, it could help free up some inventories, or an option for banks to offer a blended rate on people wanting to move.
Okay, so if you are on the like borrower side, of course you want it to be assumable. But if you are bank, so the banks, so how they finance mortgage, right? They take deposits. If they're paying 5% or 6% on deposits to their depositors, and they allow you to pay on your mortgage 3%, they won't do that. Period. So, I mean, unless you want to put banks out of business, they're not going to do that.
All right, take a question from the audience.
It's similar on the policy question. If you look at our national competitors, who have done the best job of addressing the supply side, and what policies have they put in place?
I have not looked at specifically the kind of policies they put into place. I mean, Charlotte is certainly not the worst in terms of doing this. There are places like Sacramento and places like that significantly restrict housing supply. But it's just the demand is just too strong. So there's not much like significant differences in terms of housing supply. There are many like efforts in different places where trying to easing the zoning restrictions, things like that, to trying to increasing housing supply, but it still takes time to see how those would be effective.
I'm going to go to a question on Zoom. As you mentioned that part of the increasing housing prices was due to supply or construction costs, right? So what events in the past or what factors in the past have caused the cost of construction to come down? So which we hope that will happen in the future.
I mean, let's first talk about what caused the cost to go up during COVID, right? So there is COVID, everything stops, and lumber costs quadrupled, and the labor cost also increased very significantly. And as everything COVID goes away, things going back to normal, and then cost goes down. But those kind of, there's a certain limit how low it can be. And then for housing, there is also a significant component of that housing cost is land. Right? So make land more available for development, that will decrease the cost of land. Okay, so that's probably going to be the way to go, because there's not much Charlotte as a city can do in terms of lowering the lumber cost or even the labor cost. But land cost, probably yes.
All right, take a question from the audience.
Hi, Dr. Chu. I'm just really interested with 150 net people that are moving to Charlotte every day and the household size is decreasing. There's been a lot of focus on the single family buyer side. I'm in full disclosure, I'm in the rental housing side. I'm surprised there's not a lot of more research stating that while Charlotte is still growing, affordability in the apartments are still a great solution. You don't put 20% down. You don't have to mortgage it. You might not graduate from this university and be able to buy a house at 22, but you certainly have affordability options from the rental market versus a housing market. And it is an excellent solution. I just didn't see a lot of research on why it is. I could talk about it all day, but I'm just curious as to, I think what's happening here in Charlotte and, everywhere in the country, it really should be promoted as the affordable option.
I 100% with you on that front. And I think apartments, rental, condos should all be part of the solution, right? So another thing is, I'm from China, and if you look at all around the world, US and Canada, probably the only two countries rely mostly on single family houses, right? That's also part of the problem. If we allow more multifamily, either rental or make it owner occupied, we can create more solutions to this problem. I completely agree with you.
All right, when we have a few minutes, so I'm gonna go probably two questions, one from Zoom and one from the audience. So I'm gonna start with the one from Zoom. One of the factors that increased the price in the housing prices in the last few years had been corporate purchasing housing. And so are you aware of any city or government that has special place restrictions or regulation to control corporate housing purchase?
So first of all, I have not seen reliable research documenting that corporate housing purchase pushes up prices. Okay, I know this is unpopular, but I'm telling you, there's no research showing that is, no reliable research showing that is the case. Okay, most likely these corporate home purchasers are chasing the trend. Okay, and also they could be part of the solution to providing more rental properties on the market. And there are also companies that are building communities for this purpose that can increase the net supply to the market.
All right, we're gonna take one more. There've been great questions, but sorry, we're gonna take one more question from the audience. Is there more question?
Yeah, I saw some of my former students here.
How's it going, Dr. Chu? Nice to see you. So with the private sector struggling to keep up and a lot of council members that I know personally that want to drive affordability, are there any conversations going on with the city or anything like that about either a subsidy? Like, for example, I know there's a program that gives you like $660 as a homeowner to fix up your house. But I mean, what's that really going to do? Like a paint job on one wall? You know what I mean? So any conversations going in that direction just to kind of help out?
So we just had a lunch with several city council members and county commissioners on this front, and subsidy will have to be part of the solution because there will be a certain segment of this market that however we do it, there's no market solution for them. If you are below 60% or 50%, 40% AMI, the market doesn't work for them. There's gotta be government solution for that.
All right, thank you so much. If you don't mind, give a round of applause to Yongqiang. I wanted to thank again the support of our sponsor, Phase-In, Canopy, True Home for your continued support. Please stay tuned because we're going to take 10-minute break. Then please come back for the panel discussion. So take a break. I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.